My name is Caroline Betancourt, and I am in Ms. Vaughn's Exceptional Children class. And this is my articles presentation, and I'm just presenting 5 of my articles that I did research over for this project. My first article the title of it is Theory, Research, and Practice for Students who are Deaf and Hard of Hearing with Disabilities, Addressing the Challenges from Birth to Post-Secondary Education. And the authors were Caroline Guardino and Joanna E. Cannon. My grow for this article is that it gave a lot of information and a lot of statistics, and that's great. Some of the numbers could be a little bit distracting, however. They got to the point where you were just seeing a bunch of numbers and you weren't actually being able to think about the main ideas and the main points that the author was trying to get across because there were so many statistics. Another thing I wish they would have done was include more practical tools and suggestions for teaching these students. I love it when an article actually gives a specific example or a specific tool that the struggling parent or teacher, whoever is reading this article, can use in helping these students. My glow for this article was I really liked the depth that it went to. First, it covered deaf and hard of hearing students, just with the deaf and hard of hearing. Then it went a little deeper and addressed the deaf and hard of hearing students that have another disability as well. Then it went a little bit further and addressed deaf and hard of hearing students that have an additional disability and are also English language learners. So I really like how it kind of built on itself and went a little deeper and a little deeper because all students are not cookie cutter. Some of these children have multiple things going on where they are deaf or hard of hearing, they have another disability, and they're also English language learners. English is not their first language. My second article is Music Technology for Students with Visual Impairments, and this was written by Chad Criswell. My glow for this one was that he did do what the first article didn't do for me, and he gave me specific tools and teaching methods that could be used to help these students. He gave so many that I would suggest that anybody who is a parent or a teacher to a student with visual impairments would read it, just because he gave so many specific examples of you can go to this website and use this and it would help them in this way, or you can use this tool and it would help the student in this way. The only thing I wish he would have done more of was give me a specific example of a student that he's seen using one or more of these tools to achieve success or be able to read music at the end of it. I just wish, I like it when articles give me a specific story or example of a student using the methods or the tools presented in the article and showing how they help them, not just saying this is a tool that will help you. I just think it would have been a good thing if he would have given me a specific example of a particular student. My third article is How Schools Maximize Gifted Talent. And my author here was Allison Denisco. This article opened with a quote that says, and I really, really, really like this quote. It is from Sally Krizel, a director of innovative and advanced programs at Hall County Public Schools, and that is a public school system in Georgia. And she said, there's an unfounded sense that it's somehow elitist to place emphasis on our highest ability kids. She goes on to say, gifted programs are as necessary as special ed services. I really appreciate the fact that she's bringing light to the fact that we tend, especially in the public school system, to put emphasis and focus on children who have learning disabilities or who have physical disabilities or who have mental, incapacities. It's not elitist to say, oh, this child does really well here. I think we need to maximize that, and I think that we need to, focus on not just the children who struggle with school, but the children who find school to be a breeze and who are, intelligent and who do very, very well in school. It also went into depth about twice exceptionality, which I think is great that it pointed twice exceptionality out to me, because before this class, I had no idea what that would mean. And it is basically twice exceptionality, as this article defined it, is an academically gifted child who also has another disability. So you kind of have two things going on there. You have some sort of disability, could even be a learning disability, but at the same time, they're gifted academically in some subject. They do very, very well in it. And I feel like that group of students, the twice exceptional students, are not ignored, but not focused on as much as they could be and should be, and maybe not educated to their maximum potential just because, they have some sort of disability. So that may make the education process a little bit harder. So the challenges that they face may kind of scare teachers and parents away from, really going in depth and putting a lot of emphasis on educating these children, when I think that they have just as much. Obviously, they're academically gifted. They have just as much potential as a normal child. I don't have a grow for this article just because I think it did such a good job of balancing lots of information, but it didn't get overwhelming with statistics or numbers or anything. It was just a really interesting read and very helpful. My fourth article is Poetry and Writing, Improving Fluency and Motivation for Students with Developmental Dyslexic Traits. And the author who wrote this was Dr. Benita Brester. This article is really, really interesting to me, and it piqued my interest a little bit more than any of the other ones did, just because Dr. Benita, the author, actually went to a classroom. I think it was 4th or 5th grade, one of those, and she worked with a group of 4 or 5, maybe 6 boys. They were all boys, no girls, who showed signs of developmental dyslexia. I don't think they were diagnosed with dyslexia yet, but they had just shown signs, and the teacher and parents had noticed that this child might have dyslexia. So that really just piqued my interest, because the article was written from her perspective, from actually going into this classroom and working with these group of boys who showed signs of dyslexia. And of course, at first, I think she worked with them for about 9 weeks. And at first, whenever she first came in, they didn't want anything to do with poetry. That was something for girls. I think one of the little boys actually said, they're not worried about poetry. It's not something that piques their interest. But throughout the 9 weeks, she actually was able to present poetry in a way that accessed the creative side of their brain, and it was fun to them. She was able to present it in a way that they were able to have fun with it and laugh with it, and to a point where they actually really enjoyed it, and they looked forward to the time that they got to spend with her reading poetry. And I don't know if they actually were aware of it or not, but with the whole reading poetry for 9 weeks and how she went through it and how she presented it and everything, it improved their reading and fluency skills, which students with dyslexia tend to struggle with getting words out, especially while they're reading, because the words seem all jumbled up. But it actually improved their fluency, because poetry has a certain amount of rhythm and rhyme to it. They were able to get it out, and it just improved their reading abilities and them being able to get the words out. The glow is that I wish the author would have moved a little bit more steadily in the article throughout the 9 weeks that she spent with them. You would be reading, and they were only like a week or two in, and then all of a sudden you were at the end and it was the end of the 9 weeks and the students were doing great and everything. So I just wish you would have spent a little bit more time explaining that in between time, 5, 6 weeks in, and just told us a little bit more of the struggles and that the students had, and the way that she presented the poetry, the specific examples of ways she's presented poetry and made it enjoyable for the students. And then my very last article is a little different from all my other articles. The title of it is In Praise of the Ordinary Child, and the author is Jeffrey Kluger. I don't have a grow for this article. I'm just going to kind of go through my glow. It was really interesting to me because the author started out with, every parent wants their child to be exceptional, not with a disability exceptional, but they want their child to stand out from other children. They want their child to be ahead of other children, whether that be in intelligence or in a certain subject. Maybe they excel in a certain subject, or even in sports. Parents all have this natural inclination to want their child to be better and ahead of other children, and to have, this one specific place in their life or one specific interest that they're really, really good at and they excel in. But this article, it didn't attack that, but he dealt with it in a really, really good way. He emphasized that it was okay for a child to be normal. It's not a bad thing for a child to be normal. It's not a bad thing for a child to have average intelligence and to be average in sports and average in the classroom. And parents may almost take offense to someone saying your child is ordinary or your child is normal at a normal growth rate. They may almost take offense to that sometimes and say, well, my child's not normal. They're better or something. But it points out that in today's world, everyone wants their child to be exceptional and stand out from others. But it's okay for them to not. And even sometimes whenever a child shows specific interest in one subject, we may push that child to, excel and do everything in that subject. And maybe this little boy shows interest or even talent in basketball. Well, we might push that little boy to go practice basketball every day, and that may ruin his love for basketball. That may make him not want to do it anymore. So he tackles a very touchy subject. Your child is ordinary in a really graceful way, saying it's okay. That's okay for them to be ordinary. But that was my articles, and that was all 5 of them. Thank you.